Joining me on Newshour Direct this evening is Mr. Sunil Arora, former Chief Election Commissioner, a man who saw the Lok Sabha elections of 2019 at the helm of affairs in the Election Commission of India and has experience in controversies currently raging as well. Thank you very much for joining me, Mr. Sunil Arora.
Thanks for calling me.
I want to begin with the biggest controversy this election season, which is the controversy over the electoral bonds. On the electoral bonds issue, as you know, the Supreme Court has taken exception to the withholding of information and has asked the State Bank of India to furnish all the details. There is a lot of hoopla over the election bond issues and its non-transparency. What, according to you, is the problem with the electoral bonds and how can this be resolved?
You see, funding of elections has been an issue and will remain an issue every 5 years or whenever the elections are held. Every law commission, you'll find a reference to this. And now, Honorable Supreme Court has given some observations. But A, they have left, with all due regards, the actual modalities of implementation that are still to be decided. B, funding for the election per se is not going to stop. One way or the other,
private companies will give donations.
Why call private companies? It can be private individuals. In one of the magazines recently, there was a special issue only on electoral funding, and they had given examples of 7 or 8 countries, democracies across the world, regarding the electoral funding. In the US, for example, individuals attend $1,000 a plate, $5,000 a plate, $10,000 a plate dinners organized by different political parties before the preliminaries and in the final stages. Why not make it public?
So you think the Election Commission has always been of the view that there should be more transparency, and why hasn't it happened so far?
Election Commission had collectively said it should be more transparent and less opaque. And I don't think any commission has rescinded that view so far.
But then why have election fundings remained opaque over the years?
Navika ji, I think maybe you like to either call the presidents and secretaries of various political parties. They would be able to give you a better reply. But yes, the role of commission would always be to say, it is always to say that it should be more transparent and less opaque.
Having said that, the rhetoric today is that, Party X has funded Party Y, Company X has funded Party X. There is a whole lot of information that has come out. The fact of the matter is, what has changed? Earlier, these donations were in cash and check, and now they are in electoral bonds. Does the Election Commission have a detailed account of which company has donated to which political party? Is that disclosed even to the Election Commission?
I don't think it is disclosed the way it should be disclosed.
But it is disclosed to a certain extent?
Well, limited extent. Always it's in sealed covers and things like that.
And earlier, when it was check donations and other means of raising funds, are the details available to the Election Commission?
But before I reply to what you are asking, I would also like to make an observation. Which party has not received the bonds? In fact, some of the parties in various parts of the country, they have got huge, they have got even more funding than the national parties. So,
State parties.
State parties. So, all those who are now kind of representing the issue, talking about this issue, or purporting to represent the issue, are also bearing NGOs and others, some NGOs and others, are the recipients of poll bonds. Kindly see the state-wise figures.
Well, you have a point there. The Trinamool Congress, of course, has more donations through electoral bonds than even the Congress party, which is at number 3. So, yes, that point also has come up. But do you think somewhere or the other, money in politics, money in elections, an issue that the Election Commission has spoken about for a long time, is still an elephant in the room which hasn't been tackled in the manner that it should in a democracy like ours?
I think even ECI would have to kind of rethink the strategy to that extent and try to maybe exercise greater powers, more powers under Article 324.
More powers to the Election Commission.
What else? Who else, by the way?
But then the
Parties are not wanting to disclose, or not, apparently not willing to disclose. The companies are kind of taking one alibi or the other. Their biggest fear being, or apprehension being, real or imagined, that if it comes to be known as to which party has funded how much to the other party, that may have some repercussions at the national level to the regulatory agencies.
So it continues to be a problem that hasn't been resolved so far.
Not really, not really.
Does that impact free and fair elections and the power of the voter, especially when money has such a...
Voters are, with all due regards, not really concerned to that extent. Unless you think that people are, which is said, that they are given cash in some states and all that. But the counter argument is that many of them receive cash but vote the way they want to vote.
So you're saying despite all the expenditure limits, despite all the attempts that have been made, foul practices, unfair practices in elections continue unabated?
You see, a certain kind of foul practices, that is bahubalis and all, that EVMs have taken care of. And if you see, for example, a state as big as UP, these UP and some other parts of the country were famous for their bahubalis. That part has been taken care of by EVMs. How, that will come to later in case you have time.
Absolutely.
But when it comes to the funding, I don't know, because I don't myself have, or other ECs also probably would not have, any empirical evidence either this way or that way, that funding alone is kind of swaying. Now this time, by the way, elections, I mean, besides having been CEC, I'm a voter also. Would you think that the abrogation of 370, or what has recently happened in Ayodhya, or what is happening in the upgradation of infrastructure all over the country, would not have any effect on me as a voter? And it's only the bonds issue, just because it has come to the Honorable Court at a very sensitive time by an NGO, that this has become the only issue. The core issue, the central issue.
So there are many issues that would
Yes.
impact elections. Been many questions that have been raised about the fairness and the impartiality of the Election Commission itself. Controversies flew thick and fast in the 2019 elections. They're doing so now as well. There were dissent notes when you were the Chief Election Commissioner in the Election Commission. There has been a resignation of Election Commissioner even this time around. What do you make of the questions about the impartiality of the Commission itself?
There was no dissent note, with all due regards, when I was CEC. We had dozens of complaints every day from various political parties on 2 or 3 files. A contrary view has been, there is a different thing.
Okay.
The word dissent note and viewpoint. Suppose there is a file, I'll have to explain it in 1 or 2 minutes, knowing the constraints of time, despite that, on which you have written that you want 100 new cars for the entire country. One member writes 100 cars, another writes 70 cars, a third one writes 60 cars. You finally go for 75 cars. You will say that 60 cars is a dissent note? Only in quasi-judicial matters there is a dissent note. For example, when you have to allot symbols, when you have to write a judgment, there are dissent notes. So I don't know. I know of the fact that somebody leaked something in advance to some papers. I know the names of papers also. I will not be able to either mention here.
So are you saying that
And as far as Commission is concerned, I'm sorry to disturb you, the criticism of Commission was always there, even in the early 60s, and then when the Commission was made multi-party from one single
Election
CEC,
Commissioner.
and you see the plethora of judgments of that time. It's today also there, but having worked there as EC and as CEC for 2.5 to 3 years, I think if one of the few institutions surviving in the country and surviving well and doing well, it's the honorable courts, and EC is also one of those institutions.
All right. So let me also ask you the big question about one nation, one election. You know, it's a recommendation that has gone. The former president committee under him has submitted their recommendations to the President of India. Do you think this is something that should be adopted? Because many political parties believe that the party in power at the center will have an unfair advantage if simultaneous elections were held. What is your view?
It was overdue. I am also one of those persons whose views were sought, maybe as ex-CEC. My view was and remains that it should be done. In fact, if you ask my personal view, it should have been done many years back. And if you see the historical context, till 67, there was no controversy on this.
But that's a long time ago as well.
No, but at the same time, it started from first elections in 51-2 and lasted till 67. How many years?
15.
And after that, if there is a political instability and governments are dismissed under Article
356,
as if the existence of state government doesn't matter. For example, I am Rajasthan cadre. I worked with Shekhawatji. 77, dismissed. 80, their own Janata Party, they dismissed the non-Janata members. Then again, 92, dismissed. The only tenure he could complete, his government could complete, was 93 to 98.
Okay.
So but at the same time, I also wrote in black and white that local elections should not be mixed up with these.
So you're saying state and center elections, Lok Sabha elections can be done, but not the civic elections, the local body elections.
Yes, and
I
maintain
those Those should be separate.
Yes, because the issues are different.
But state issues are also different.
No, still there's a kind of, you go up, the issues are not macro issues also. You will talk about the city. Let us say, if I'm ex-resident of Jaipur city, I'll talk about the overall Jaipur scenario. But if I'm asked only about the municipal elections also, I'll talk about the gutter in front, overflowing in front of my house.
Okay. Let me also bring up the vexed issue of EVMs. That controversy refuses to die. Last week also, there was a petition in the Supreme Court that was heard and dismissed by the Apex Court, once again questioning on whether there should be a return to the paper ballot because EVMs are not dependable. Opposition parties continue to raise this issue even today till a few hours ago. What do you call this EVM obsession a result of?
This is a tragedy of the country that kind of a non-issue of sorts has been made into such a big issue. Let's take last time in Delhi, in Government of India and Union of India, Party X wins. And 3 months after in Delhi, Party Y wins. So when are the EVMs correct and when they are incorrect? The people, the 3 or 4 experts who are working on the EVMs, they are people who have spent their lifetimes and they have been, by the way, they have been members of the EVM committee prior to the coming of this government. In fact, one of them expressed so much anguish to me once on phone, I can't tell you. He said he works so hard, they don't charge anything from the commission. They are extremely independent. And do you want the country to go back to those Indo-Gangetic states, especially where you had the so-called the elections had only Bahubalis? Some 8, 10 unsocial elements coming in, capturing the
booth capturing
and stamping. Do you want that?
So you think this is a manufactured controversy? Do you think EVMs are hackable in the present scenario where we are talking about internet connectivity, we are talking about 5G, we are talking about artificial intelligence? Are you saying that EVMs are foolproof to all the latest technologies?
I said as CEC, off the record, on the record, that EVM is not hackable. I say as ex-CEC that EVMs is not hackable in that sense, in any sense.
And 100% VVPAT, is that a practical solution?
That was the court's decision that 5% should be. If the court tomorrow says no 100%, the commission will have to go by that.
But do you think 5% is a good enough check?
Good enough. It's very good enough. Last time, I know you are constrained for time. Last time, 5 or 4 days before the controversy, before the election was to start, we had a delegation of almost 75 members.
From political parties?
Various political parties. No, sorry, not 75. I think it was around 60. And the person who was leading the delegation, the moment he entered the room, they said, by that time we had already given all instructions. We were to start our meetings on the conference calls with all our CEOs. We made a request to them that this is not the time for now, this meeting. But they insisted, we listened to them. And we were told the moment they came in, they said, 75% of the country's electorate is standing before you. I don't know how they arrived at that figure. 75%. And who are the members of the committee? Professor D.T. Shani, Professor Emeritus, IIT Delhi.
Okay.
Professor Rajat Mona, Director, IIT Bhilai. Former Director General, CDSC. Professor Dinesh K. Sharma, Professor Emeritus, IIT Bombay. Professor Agrawala, IIT Delhi, unfortunately, is not too well or not able to participate that much. But otherwise, these are the level of people.
Well,
and by the way, this is not the creation of the present government, this committee. It was existing for many years. I had made a booklet. This I used to distribute amongst your colleagues and you during the press conferences. It is still there in the commission. Kindly read it. It's not more than 100 pages.
well, as they say, in politics, old habits die hard, and when it is election time, well, controversies is what political parties thrive on. We hope some of these controversies will be laid to rest, at least by the courts. The others, for them, clearly electoral reforms, funding details is something that needs to be looked at on an urgent basis.
A committee is just a humble suggestion of the level appointed for one nation, one elections by somebody as senior and as respected as the Honorable
The President of India.
President of India and other important stakeholders who are the members of this committee. It's time some similar bodies formed and they suggest wide sweeping electoral reforms. If they think whenever they are required, I think it's overdue for that.
Well,
And meanwhile, it's a democracy which will win, and democracy in this country has been winning in the past also.
well, we do hope, yes, there is a commitment from all political parties to look at electoral reforms and not just remember them when elections come up every 5 years.